Recently, I made a video talking about how human rights don't exist. And if there was a record for amount of comments per amount of views, I think I broke it on YouTube during that video. It has a few hundred views, and I think at this point it has over 100 comments, which is just astounding. And the reason that there's so many comments is because there's so many freaking random people coping in the comments saying that human rights exist. You're an evil person for saying that human rights don't exist. What are you talking about? It's the most disliked video I've had in a while. I know you can't see that on YouTube anymore, but about 50% of the engagement is dislikes. All right, so that's a lot for my channel because generally it seems like people actually like what I have to say. But this one has a lot of dislikes. And so some people might back down a bit and be like, okay, wait a second. So many people think that I'm evil. So many people disagree with me. Maybe I'm wrong about this stuff. Of course, like any normal person, I would do that, but I'm not going to do that in this video. In fact, I'm going to double down and I am going to say and give you evidence that if you believe in human rights, you are evil by your own standard of morality. For me, I don't believe in human rights. I choose to treat people with respect, and I can share my ethics in some other video, but I don't believe that human beings inherently have rights. And that actually is more in line with me being ethical than you are. If you believe that human beings inherently have rights, even if you believe in God, then you are probably evil. All right. So I'm going to reference a great video by a philosophy professor named Jeffrey Kaplan. I will actually put the video in the description, but it's called Peter Singer, Ordinary People Are Evil. And so what he talks about in this video is this essay written by philosopher Peter Singer, who's a utilitarian. And I disagree heavily with almost everything Peter Singer has to say, but at the very least, he's very consistent. Maybe I can get to my disagreements with him a little bit later in this video. But the title of the essay is called Famine, Affluence, and Morality. And basically what he's making the claim for here is, I haven't completely read the essay myself because it's like 300 pages, but really what first he starts off with a proposition that human beings inherently have rights, right? Natural rights and everything. The entire philosophy of utilitarianism, if you're not familiar with it, goes along the lines of whatever is best maximizes pleasure and minimizes pain for the most amount of people. What's inherent within that sort of claim is that human beings all across the world naturally have rights, are naturally worth saving, right? And so based off of that premise, he basically says, okay, if you truly believe that everybody is equal in the eyes of God, or just if you're an atheist, if you just believe in natural rights, then you would do everything in your power to save them. There's still famine in this world. I mean, the title of this is Famine, right? Famine, Affluence, and Morality. There's famine. There's civil strife. There's problems in this world. There's stuff going on in the Middle East. There's stuff going on in Ukraine and Russia. There's stuff going on in China. And yet you, whoever is watching right now, especially people who watched that last video and disliked it and was coping in the comments, you are still spending your money on frivolous things. If you actually believe in human rights, if you truly believe that every single human being inherently has value and is inherently good, then any sort of excess money that you have or you ever spend, you would be spending toward those causes, right? So instead of you, buying a nice new car or buying a nice new house or buying nice new clothes, you would spend the minimum amount possible, no matter how much money you make, even if you don't make a lot, and then use the rest of it to go to those causes. Better yet, you would be involved in those causes yourself. And look, there are some people who are completely consistent with that. They go and, fight and die for causes, like when they see injustices and whatnot. Like there's some people that went over, Americans even, that went over to help the Ukrainians fight against Russia. So some people put their money where their mouth is. But for every person like that, there are hundreds, nay thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people who believe in natural rights and human rights that don't do shit. They don't do anything. They just sit there and keep living their lives, and they just believe, because it sounds nice, that everybody inherently has rights. Look at people's actions, not their words. There's one thing that Jordan Peterson talked about once, and I thought this was really great. Say what you want about Jordan Peterson, but he's got some real gems here and there. Somebody asked him, do you believe in God? And he sat there, he's like, does anybody believe in God? If you truly 100% thought that he existed, you would never sin. That's basically what he was saying. I think it's true. Because if you're just like, well, if you truly 100% believe that he existed, you would not sin, right? So nobody actually truly 100% believes in that, believes in him. There's still that leap of faith that's required, that this assertion that God exists and therefore you should live a certain life because God exists. Like, no matter how strong your faith is, it's never fully at 100%. Otherwise, you would never do any bad things, because you know for a fact that you're going to be judged. There's no doubt at all. And there wouldn't be any sin in this world because everybody would be afraid to go to hell. So Peter Singer makes the case in his essay that no matter what your income is, it shouldn't just be that, oh, only rich people need to do this. No, if you truly are being a good person and you're not evil, and you truly believe that everybody is made in the image and likeness of God, or if you've held on to that Christian belief without the actual religion, you're more sort of like a secular humanist type, you would be putting every single ounce of your energy into helping out those causes. And at least from what Jeffrey Kaplan says, because apparently he knows Peter Singer personally, he says that him in his real life, Peter Singer, ever since he wrote this essay back in like 1972, he's been very consistent within his own ethical life, as in, like, he doesn't make a ton of money, but he lives a very, very like meager sort of, I don't want to call it destitute, but he's kind of a minimalist, right? So he's a minimalist so that he can use most of his resources and attention to helping out these causes. So again, as much as I disagree with Peter Singer, and one of the reasons I really disagree with him, by the way, this is kind of, all right, so I'll just tell you one thing I really disagree with him on is that, you know, he's like a true utilitarian consequentialist through and through. So he's very much believes in like the pain pleasure principle and all that type of stuff. Not to say I don't either to some extent, but he believes that infants, because they don't have the ability to perceive pain the same way that adults do, because they're underdeveloped, that there could be made a case for like late-term abortion to the point of aborting the baby after it's born. It's just like, sometimes really smart, intelligent people can just be really freaking stupid because they're trying to be logically consistent. But anyway, that's just some of my disagreements with him, right? And plus, he's vegan and he's all about animal rights. I don't think animal rights exist, which makes sense if I don't think human rights exist. Now, for some of you guys, you might be thinking I'm a piece of shit right now. I understand that. But at the very least, I'm not being a hypocrite. You are. If you truly believe that human beings inherently had rights, and you're not putting every single ounce of your energy into solving the evils of this world, despite the fact that you might have some limitations to doing that, then by your own ethical code, you are evil. By my own ethical code, I am not evil at all. I think that sort of thing, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that every single one of us are equal. Because if you are being honest with yourself, and I'm being honest with myself too, right? If somebody was like, hey, they put I live with my brother, he's in the other room right now. If somebody put a gun to my brother's head and they were like, okay, either I kill him or I kill 10 random people around the world, I would not even hesitate to say, oh, I guess those 10 random people die, right? Like, that doesn't make me an evil person for thinking that. The fact of the matter is we have these perspectival lives. And this is one of the reasons that I love Nietzsche, is because Nietzsche talks about how everything in life is perspective. Everything we value, every sort of truth claim, anything that we think is truthful goes through the lens of our values. That's the whole philosophy of perspectivism. One thing he's very clear about in his philosophy, because a lot of his works is actually critiquing other philosophers and whatnot. So he almost sort of psychologizes. He's like a proto-psychologist. He psychologizes other great thinkers before him and doesn't just look at the words of what they were saying. He also looks at who they were as people, right? He believes that their philosophies are them telling on themselves about what they truly value. So similarly, when I see YouTube comments like this, or I see people talk about this idealistic vision of this like amazing world about how everybody's equal, we're all singing Kumbaya and whatnot, human beings are good, we're all worth saving, I'm more concerned with their actions. Are their actions congruent with their words? And almost 100% of the time, especially in regards to human rights, nobody's actions are aligned with their words. Again, there are some people that are some great heroes that truly believe in that stuff. They went and died for it in wars and whatnot. They've dedicated their lives to working for nonprofits and stuff. But for the vast majority of people, and I almost guarantee you, probably every single person that left some comment saying that I was like wrong or evil or whatever for saying this, they're not those people themselves. And you know what, man? I don't blame them. I'm going to bring another philosopher in here, Martin Heidegger. He has this concept of everydayness and the they and being and falling into everydayness, which basically means that we all have sort of this journey of life. We want to sort of actualize ourselves. We want to live a meaningful life, right? But there's these certain demands that society, or what he calls the they, demands of you based off of what situation you're thrown into. So you're thrown into a different society, a different time period with different values. And really the only way you can judge somebody's character is based off of how well they can do given that certain environment that they're thrown into. And he actually has another term for this called facticity. So your facticity is based off of your ability to be your best self based off of the thing that you're thrown into. So for example, if you were born like into a super affluent family and you have a ton of disposable income because of that, then yeah, you have more of a responsibility for sure to help out in your society. If you are born into a poverty-stricken neighborhood and you are unfortunately, you don't have a very high IQ, so your upward mobility is very limited, then those types of people shouldn't be expected to do the same types of things that those wealthy, affluent, high IQ people have. Because their facticity is very different. And because everybody is thrown into a different situation, they are naturally going to value different things. And the things that you value is largely based off of what you were raised off of and what limitations that you have based off of your facticity. And so because everybody's values are going to be different, there's going to be a hierarchy of values that is different for each society, different for each individual. And I think based off that, and you don't choose your values, by the way, your core values are implanted in you through genetics, potentially natural selection, but then also just how you're raised. And so your sense of right and wrong is going to be very much different from other people's. You almost can't really choose your sense of right and wrong. It's almost chosen for you. This is why the ancient Greeks, for example, were very meticulous about implanting certain values onto the youth because once they get to a certain age, their brains like harden. Obviously, they didn't know that scientifically back then. We know that now with neuroplasticity and everything, but your values are the same way. And so if we acknowledge that one, we are hierarchical creatures just based off how we order ourselves, this is something that Nietzsche talked about, and Jordan Peterson was rightfully very good at establishing this as being a core tenet of Nietzsche's philosophy about hierarchies and whatnot. And we combine the fact that we are value-based creatures, that we look at these hierarchies through our perspectival lens of values, then that natural intuition, I wouldn't say intuition, that instinct that I personally have, if somebody points a gun to my brother's head and says, I'm going to kill him or either him or 10 random people in the world, the fact that I don't even hesitate naturally to choose the other people to die, that's not something that makes me a bad person. It is something that makes you a bad person if you be too logical and, just try to be too utilitarianism and actually become sort of like an idiot like Peter Singer does, thinking that kids should be able to be killed outside of the womb. Like the reason that we have that idea, that sort of utilitarian idea, is from religion. I'm not one of these people that like bashes religion like most atheists do or secular people do. I think there's a lot of utility in religion, and I think it's great. If I wish I could be religious, I'm just not. I just don't believe in it. I don't think the evidence is there. I could go for a whole other video about that. But one of the purposes of religion, Christianity more specifically, is to be the truth itself, logos. Try to have human beings work together because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, right? We're all equal among one another. But if we're very honest with ourselves, and you know what, that's a great way to, it's a great untruth, I should say, to make societies work together. We're all equal. We're all in this together. But if you're being 100% honest with yourself and you look at people's actions, that is not congruent at all. Any one of you guys, I'm sure, even if you're religious, even if you believe in all these human rights and whatnot, if I pointed a gun to your mom's head and I said, this person or these 5 random people over here, you are going to choose those 5 random people there, assuming you have a good relationship with your mom. So if you truly believed that we were all equal, If you truly believe that, your actions would follow suit, but they don't. Why? Because the idea of natural rights, the idea of human rights is a lie. It's a useful lie. I'm not saying that it's not a useful lie. I'm pretty sure in my last video I said it was a useful lie, but it's still a lie. It's still not true. It's an untruth that we believe, that we've chosen to believe in order to live more harmoniously within society. Anyway, all that to say, if you truly believed that human beings inherently had rights, if you truly believe that deep down, you would be congruent with your actions. You wouldn't just be saying a bunch of nice sounding words. You'd be congruent with your actions. Any sort of extra money that you have would all be going to charity. And if not, you would be going and volunteering all these different places. And like, if you have the leisure time to go watch Netflix, you have the time to go help out these charities if you truly believed in that. And so if you believe in that, if you believe in human rights and natural rights, and you're not doing all those things that I just said before, you are evil by your own definition. Well, I got a little bit heated in this video here, a little bit passionate, I should say. You know what? I don't hate you if you left a bunch of mean. It's just that, like, it's just frustrating, man. It's like if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, the Earth is flat. The Earth is flat, right?" You knew this, like, oh, it's like the chemtrails. It's like, no, dude, the Earth is round. Here's all the evidence. It's like, I don't think you're a bad person for believing that. I just think that you're like kind of weird and you're annoying for thinking that. And if you just splatter it all over my comment section, I have to correct you. Anyway, all that to say, we are valuing creatures. If you choose your mom over the other 5 people, you're not a bad person. You don't need to feel guilty about it. That's what everybody else would do too if they were being honest with themselves. It's just that we need to create these untruths in order to live harmoniously within society. Something that Nietzsche actually said in Beyond Good and Evil. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I talk about him so much on this damn channel. People accuse me of not having any original ideas, but that's for a whole other video. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. I think I've proven my point. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Funny enough, actually, one thing I want to point out, people take this idea so personally that this guy himself, Jeffrey Kaplan, he actually deleted the comment section because if you scroll down, it actually says it in the bio here. He says, "Sorry, I had to disable comments on this particular video because quite a few of them were inappropriate, even threatening. The views expressed in this video are those of Peter Singer and not my own." This is a summary of... Anyway, basically what he's saying is that, like, people take this subject so personally. I think maybe unconsciously, we all know that it's kind of a lie. And because we know it's kind of a lie, but it's a very useful lie that we need in order to live harmoniously within society. Like, maybe people have this natural fear that if you start to have these dangerous conversations about that and bring up the idea that, hey, maybe human rights don't actually exist, which all the evidence points to that being the case, that it's just a moral interpretation, not an actual, phenomena, something that's like ontologically true, then that could potentially lead to a bunch of things that we benefit from, society more specifically, crumbling down. And so I totally understand that. And based off the amount of views that this video has, or this guy, Jeff Kaplan, is like 3.6 million views. I think the fact that he got so much hate for this video shows that the general population at large probably has that sort of mindset. And this is why the things I talk about on this channel, more specifically in this case, Nietzsche, it's not for everybody. A lot of people cannot handle it. They just can't. They need to preserve these untruths that they've lied to themselves about in order to feel comfortable with the life that they live. And if I expose to you these types of things, or somebody like Peter Singer exposed to you that you're a hypocrite based off your own ethics, naturally you're going to respond with vitriol, right? Because basically he's calling you an evil person. I'm not calling you an evil person because I don't share those same ethics as him. Hey, maybe I convince some of you and now you'll come to my side and you won't be some utilitarian hippie like Peter Singer. I don't know. Anyway, really appreciate you watching, and I expect this video is probably going to get just as much hate, if not more. But that would be good because that means that I actually made a good case if you have an emotional reaction to me exposing the truth to yourself about your own hypocrisy. Yeah, anyway, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.